Good afternoon. Getting right down to business here. We're doing it live, doing more at 4 weekday afternoons, right after Guy Benson and just before the 790 KBC News Blitz with my pal Randy Wang at 5. Mottek On Money. We are live on the air on 790 KBC, streaming live online worldwide at kbc.com. And yes, the on-demand Mottek On Money podcast, kbc.com, Apple, iTunes, YouTube. All of your favorite podcast platforms. At 6, by the way, stay tuned for the Just Help One radio show and podcast presented by the Union Rescue Mission. I'll be back on the air at 6 this evening and every Thursday evening at 6 with Mark Hood, the CEO of the Union Rescue Mission. Well, more early fireworks on Wall Street today ahead of the 3-day 4th of July holiday weekend. Right out of the gate this morning, the June jobs report came out better than expected, and then the House passed the big, beautiful bill today, and President Trump says he'll sign it on the 4th of July tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern. That's 2 o'clock our time here in Los Angeles. Stocks rallied, sending the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ to record highs for the third time this week, a holiday-shortened week. The Dow gained more than 300 points, up 344 at 44,828. It, too, is getting back to its all-time high, but not quite there yet. The S&P 500, the broadly based index, did pop another 52 points to 6,279. And the NASDAQ up 208 points. I do round up from Tom Looney's numbers there, up 208 to 20,601. The yield in the 10-year note now at 4.35%. The price of gold slipping a bit, down $7 now at $3,335 and change. Silver has popped to $37.04, and platinum at $1,386 an ounce. Platinum, by the way, up 37% over the past year. Silver up 20% over the past year. And, of course, gold hit an all-time high not too long ago, above 3,500. The June jobs report out today showed an increase of 147,000 jobs added to the economy in June versus the expectation of 106,000. The nation's unemployment rate unexpectedly ticked lower to 4.1%, and the May payrolls print was revised higher. Recent signs of softening in the job market had given investors some confidence that a rate cut could come soon from the Federal Reserve, but it looks like the talk today has been that they're taking a July rate cut off the table. Investors also, of course, watching what's happening on the trade front with this July 9th deadline next week for the resumption of sweeping tariffs. President Trump's trade deal with Vietnam this week has also boosted market confidence and hopes for more deals to fend off economic damage from tariffs. Also, the U.S. lifted curbs on exports of chip-design software to China. Bitcoin hovering near its all-time high, by the way, above 109,000. And we're going to take a closer look at that here coming up as well. Among the tech names, Microsoft and NVIDIA had a big rally this week. We had the Wedbush analyst Dan Ives on this program 24 hours ago. He said potentially the Mag 7 members could reach $5 trillion over the next 18 months. If you want to review what he had to say on this program, just bring up the Mottek On Money podcast on yesterday's show. For taxpayers and consumers, the big, beautiful bill has a lot in there. We'll unpack a lot of that coming up this hour here. Also, gasoline prices hovering at their lowest level since 2021, heading into the 4th of July holiday weekend. We'll take a closer look at that coming up here as well. And the big, beautiful bill also imposes some changes among tax credits in the EV world for EV buyers, electric vehicle buyers. Now that the Republican spending out of Congress toward President Trump's desk, the spending plan is out. The $7,500 tax credit that car shoppers can use for the new EV purchase is set to expire at the end of September, according to the tax and spending bill that passed the House today. I'll discuss all of that with our go-to car expert, Lauren Fix, editor-in-chief of Car Coach, and the co-host of the Total Car Score podcast. Closer to home, the city of Los Angeles has declared a fiscal emergency, and the LA City Council has taken a month-long vacation. I'll discuss that and more with a great American heading into the 4th of July weekend, and that would be the Honorable Dennis ZINE, former Los Angeles City Council member and former LAPD sergeant. 56 years plus service to the City of Angels. Dennis ZINE will be on the line later this hour. But first, on your money, the markets, the economy, the big, beautiful bill, and the whole works now. Joining us live is the one and only Jonathan HOENIG, Fox News and Fox Business contributor, portfolio manager at Capitalist Pig Hedge Fund, and author of the book, Price is Primary, How to Profit with Any Asset in Any Market at Any Time. Great American with us here, Jonathan HOENIG. Good afternoon. Let me be the first to say happy 4th of July weekend to you, sir.
Oh, Frank, and thank you. And what a pleasure to ring in the holiday weekend with, as you said, new all-time highs on Wall Street. And look, no matter what side of the aisle you're on this holiday, we can all, I think, reflect how fortunate we are to live in this country, a country built on freedom, a country where we can speak freely, we can vote, we can worship, pursue our dreams, and also pursue our financial dreams and achieve them in this country, Frank. That freedom has fueled our prosperity. So happy Fourth to our listeners, whether they've got $1 in the bank or $100 million in the bank. We're all Americans, and freedom is what fuels our cause.
Beautifully said. Red, white, and blue. And we talk about the green here on this program, and you do a great job with all of that on Fox Business and Fox News. You've been very, very busy, so thank you very much for taking the call on this banner day here, banner week, and so much going on. And market got a boost right out of the gate on this jobs report, which came in better than expected. The nation's unemployment rate moving lower. And then this big, beautiful bill, the president's centerpiece legislation here, which will be signed into law tomorrow, also boosting the market. Give us your view of this latest action here.
Well, what a remarkable comeback it's made, Frank. I mean, I'm still really in awe of the lengths in which this market has come since April. I mean, we were looking at a stock market, an S&P, a broad market down 15%, 18%, and that came at the same time that the president was talking about tariffs every single day, changing tariff policy every single day. And it does seem to me that a lessening of that tariff threat has been correlated with an upward move of stocks. So I'm happy to see some deals being made with whether it's Vietnam or any country. I think the visibility for Americans, business owners, producers on the tariff issue really puts to bed a lot of what has flummoxed stocks in the early part of the year. So I think all-time highs is bullish. Where you're putting your money, though, I think is the real answer here. And I still contend. I know Dan Ives has been right on the money when it comes to the Mag 7. But, yep. Frank, the average foreign stock actually outperformed the U.S. stock by a measure of 2 or 3 times this year. So the real action has been in that weak dollar and strong foreign stocks.
On there live with Jonathan HOENIG and
Mic Drop. Hosted by former Navy SEAL Mike Ritlin. It's raw.
Any single time that you left the wire, you could lose 4 guys.
It's unfiltered.
That's the most horrible screaming I'd ever heard. Taking a hit on the chin, you want to pay it back?
It's tough talk from the top minds in their field.
Would I choose to not do our duty as military fighting men? No, I would not make that decision, without question.
Mic Drop. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
Now that this bill is passed, that lifts a lot of the uncertainty that was gripping the market, too. And we were going through those market convulsions a few months ago. Where do you think we go from here?
Well, I think higher inflation is to come, and it's being seen in some of those precious metals prices that you quoted, Frank. The economy is slowing. I think that the bond market is telling us that, but that persistent rise in copper, you didn't mention, also screaming up to new all-time highs in just recent weeks. Gold, platinum, palladium, I think you can still own all the metals at this point. And when it comes to stocks, I'm looking at those foreign names. I think that they're going to benefit most from a weak dollar. So even something that's like a pretty broad, like GWX. GWX is an ETF that tracks small cap international stocks. Now, Frank, that's about as out of favor as what's been in decades. I mean, it's been literally a decade since those have been in favor, but lately they've been hot, and I think they'll continue to be hot primarily because they're cheap and because the weak dollar is sending money into foreign stocks. So GWX is one, I think, to put on your radar screen. It doesn't move like the Mag 7, but I think it could have a couple years, in fact, of outsized returns.
All right, let's turn to the other exciting stuff here. Bitcoin near its all-time high, close to 110,000 here at last glance, and Ethereum also up around, 2,600 here, and Doge has moved a few cents higher this week, back to 17 cents. What about crypto here?
I mean, all-time highs beget more all-time highs. I have to scratch my head, Frank. I mean, I still wonder about the real ultimate final use beyond store of value. I mean, is Bitcoin just simply a store of value play? It seems to be at this point, but I'm looking at my list of 20-day highs. And, for me, that's always a great starting place, is looking at the list of 20-day highs. Oftentimes, 20-day highs become 80-day highs, 100-day highs, and 52-week highs. So I start with those 20-day highs, and a lot of the Bitcoin and crypto-related names at 20-day highs. So, we always say don't fight the tape, and I think we're likely to see even more new all-time highs for Bitcoin in the days and weeks to come, given the price action I'm seeing.
All right, the latest speaking of price went up 500% since its IPO recently. Circle Internet Group, and that's also a crypto play, right? Circle Internet Group, as well as AI here at up another 10 and change to 188. What about that one? Is that something that's getting your attention?
I mean, of course, how can it not? I mean, these are true momentum stocks in a momentum era. And, you lose a lot of money, Frank, fighting the momentum. Now look, the tide will turn. And I still think that it's the least sexy names you could think of. For example, like one I like right now is CIB, that is Bank of Colombia. So this is an emerging market bank. It's not AI. It's not, sexy. It's not something like Next Frontier, but it's a very undervalued stock, and I believe a very undervalued sector. Same thing I would say, in fact, with China, Frank. CNYA is an ETF I like, a big, broad index of Chinese stocks. A lot of them are lower than they were in 2008. So these are names that are not at their all-time highs. So that's what I'm looking for clients over at CapitalsPig.com, truly diversifying. We always say that, but I think now is truly a time to do it because a lot of these names are cheap, but I don't think they're going to be cheap for long.
All right. Looks like we've got a ceasefire that's holding between Israel and Iran. Of course, it was very nervous over just the past 2-3 weeks when Israel wiped out Iran's nuclear program, followed by that attack by the United States to obliterate it completely, according to the president. And for a while there, the defense names were in focus. Are you still following those?
I'm not following defense as much as Israel and the Middle East writ large, Frank. I mean, I believe it was President Clinton who talked about a peace dividend after the fall of the Berlin Wall. And I mean, EIS is the ticker symbol for Israeli stocks. They have been screaming higher, and I really wonder, has Israel produced what will be a peace dividend for the Middle East? In fact, a lot of the names I'm liking now are Middle Eastern stocks, names like UAE. That's actually a ticker symbol that tracks the UAE market. The other one I like is KWT. That is a index of Kuwaiti stocks. Now, Frank, that sounds totally outrageous for most people, the idea of investing in United Arab Emirates. But, with a stop-loss order and with a proper position size, you can mitigate that risk. You say, look, I like it at 50, but at 45, I'm going to take that stop. I'm going to stop my loss. So, you always want to invest with a stop-loss order, but I do think that Middle Eastern peace dividend, thanks to Israel, is going to pay dividends in the weeks and months to come. I'm allocating money to that part of the world.
And with the Middle East still in focus, certainly oil is still in focus here. Oil prices moved higher this week as Iran suspended cooperation with the UN nuclear watchdog, for what it's worth, and oil's hovering around the 67 or so here at last glance. What about oil here in all this?
The story, I think, is a demand story and more a reflection perhaps of a weakening economy. You mentioned the strong jobs number today, but a weaker jobs look a little earlier with an ADP number earlier this week. So my sense is that the oil stocks, which have been pretty weak as names go, probably reflects a weakening economy. So I can't find a lot I like in the oil sector, except one name, Frank, is BDRY, a very kind of off-the-radar screen ETF that actually tracks shipping rates. I actually think you could see the cost. We've talked about costs going up. You could see the cost of shipping go up. So I like a lot of the shipping stocks right now, and BDRY, a name I own over at Capital's Pig, is a way to play that trend.
That's very interesting. And, of course, it looks like there are going to be winners and losers in this big, beautiful bill. And the EV names might be under pressure here with this EV tax credit set to expire. I believe it is in September. We'll be learning more about that later this hour. But Tesla moving slightly lower today, down 30 cents to $3.15 and change. That one's been bouncing around lately with the back and forth between the president and Elon Musk once again. But what about the EV names following the big, beautiful bill?
Well, I mean, a year and a time in which stocks are at all-time highs Tesla, and it's a kind of a political name now, Frank. People are very vehemently believers in Tesla, lovers of Elon Musk. Facts are facts. Stock is down about 16% year to date at a time other stocks are hitting all-time highs. So, we always make the joke that investing is like bar hopping. You want to go where the action is, and it's certainly not in EVs and not in Tesla, at least not now. Now, the robo-taxi might change some things as that gets rolled out on scaled out on a bigger basis, but at least for now, I think the EVs and a lot of the green energy stocks that frankly thrived under President Biden, you have to have a very close look at them because they're certainly not working right now, and they're not going to work under a fossil fuel-based economy.
Mm-hmm. Any other industries that are getting your attention coming off this big, beautiful bill that stand to benefit? What about the financial sector, the banks, and so forth? What's the outlook there, and anything else that jumps out at you now that this bill, now this uncertainty has been lifted here?
Sure. CIV I mentioned. I also like BMO, that's Bank of Montreal, and Real Unusual Bond Fund. Where bond funds never thought of as being particularly unusual, but ISL, Frank, one of the more unusual names out there right now, is a bond that tracks the catastrophe bond market. Basically, as long as there's not too many hurricanes and sandstorms next year, ISL could pay anywhere between 12 and 15%, though. So that's an unusual off-the-radar screen name that I like quite a bit right now, ISL. I'll give you one more in the commodity space, and that's Glencore, GLNCY. Now, you always want to do your due diligence, do your own financial research, of course, but I do think the commodities and small cap international, that's the place I'm looking right now. But just happy to be and so fortunate to be in America, Frank. How fortunate we all are. It could be anywhere in the world right now with so many of these terrible international political instability. We're in the best country ever invented on this great earth. So happy to be an American, and the stock market, I think, is reflecting that optimism today.
USA, USA. I'm with you all the way. Jonathan Hoenig, very well said as always, and thank you so much for taking the call heading into the three-day holiday weekend. We wish you and your family all the very best on the 4th of July, and look forward to speaking with you again very, very soon, Jonathan. Thank you very much for joining us live here this afternoon.
Best to you, Frank.
Thank you very much. That is the one and only Jonathan Hoenig, Fox News and Fox Business contributor, portfolio manager at Capitalist Pig Hedge Fund. His book, Price is Primary, How to Profit with Any Asset in Any Market at Any Time, live with us here on Mottek On Money on 790 KBC. Now for United Gold Group. Did you know that for more than 10,000 years, gold has been the greatest store of value and considered a safe haven asset to preserve your wealth? Well, now the U.S. debt of more than $36 trillion and climbing, a possible recession on the horizon, and the development of the digital dollar, central bank digital currency, it's more critical now than ever before to safeguard your assets like your cash savings and retirement accounts with physical gold. Opening a gold IRA is one of the best ways to secure your wealth and create a stable financial future. Stop worrying about your retirement in the market and cash savings in the bank. Feel confident, prepared, and in control with physical gold and, yes, silver. Give my friends at United Gold Group a call at 1-800-753-8534. Mention Mottek and you can get $1,000 worth of silver with a qualifying purchase. Call now, 800-753-8534. Again, that's 800-753-8534, or visit UnitedGoldGroup.com. Mottek On Money continues here, 790 KBC. A time of celebration on Wall Street heading into the three-day 4th of July holiday weekend. Record highs for the broadly based S&P 500 and for the NASDAQ, with the Dow just below its all-time high. The Russell 2K small cap, by the way, is now positive for the year. That one's come to life recently. The Dow coming in for a closing gain of 344 points, settling at 44,828. The S&P 500 of 52 to a record high 6,279. The NASDAQ up 208 points at 20,601. The yield on the 10-year note is back up to 4.35%. NVIDIA continues on a roll among the leaders this week, popping another $2 at $159 and change. Microsoft up nearly $8 at $498 and change. IBM, Big Blue, getting new attention these days at more than $4 at $291 and change. Tesla pulling into reverse slightly, down 30 cents at $315.35. Bitcoin making a run for its all-time high once again, right now hovering just below 110,000. Ethereum just shy of 2,600. Doge at the moment at 17 cents. Taking a look at gold now, hovering at around $3,335 an ounce. Silver at $37.04. Platinum at $1,386. And now the latest news for you here on 790 KABC. Mottek On Money continues now on 790 KABC. Turning now to the City of Angels. The City of LA has declared a fiscal emergency recently, and the City Council has taken a month-long vacation. Meanwhile, President Trump's administration filed a lawsuit against LA this week, claiming LA is obstructing the enforcement of immigration laws and creating a lawless environment with its sanctuary policies that prevent local police from sharing information on people without legal status. Joining us live now, a great American heading into the 4th of July weekend, the Honorable Dennis ZINE, former LA City Council member and former LAPD sergeant, 56 years plus service to the City of Angels. He's about to be honored, by the way, for that. Dennis ZINE is on the line. Thank you very much for taking the call here this afternoon.
Frank, thank you, and happy 4th of July for everyone coming up in the day.
Yes, indeed. Well, I hope everybody has a safe and restful 4th of July weekend and a celebratory one. Dennis ZINE, give us your thoughts here as the city deals with this fiscal crisis here with that big budget shortfall, and looks like some layoffs in the mix too. And let's start with that.
A lot of negative, Frank, a lot of negative. The city council in their resolution, they have approximately $1 billion deficit. And I find it ironic that this is the month that the council takes off on vacation. So for the entire month of July, they'll be on vacation. They approve the budget. July 1st, it takes effect. And then let's go on vacation for...
Hello, my loves. It's Lala Kent. Yes, that Lala. And if you're not listening to the Give Them Lala podcast, here's what you're missing out on.
I stayed with my 2 kids. Mom and Kristen shared a room, and you and Landon shared a room. What the hell is going on? A lesbian couple, a gay couple, and then this
random woman with 2 kids.
So weird, but to me, it's the most common thing. This is my brother, his best friend, and my mom and her best friend. This is just how we roll. This is called the pod, okay?
Give Them Lala. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
Month. And I don't know what they plan to do when they come back, when the city is obviously declaring that they got this $1 billion deficit. I don't know how many businesses can survive if they got that kind of deficit. Nevertheless, that's what they're facing. They do have a budget that they approved, and that budget's going to hopefully patch things together. Nearly $14 billion budget that they're going to utilize for all city departments, but this deficit is huge. And that, interestingly, was on a 14-0 vote, and one member was not attending the meeting. So what we have is the vast majority, except for one on the council, supported this. So the residents of Los Angeles, when you look at the services that are being reduced, the reason is you've got a deficit that is exceedingly high and a council that decides let's go on vacation for a month. Let's talk about the everybody's talking about in the public arena this wonderful, wonderful money that's coming to fix the movie industry, $321 billion spending. Well, $321 billion, when you think about it, in the movie industry is not a lot of money. Now, we know the state is a $12 billion deficit. They're going to put 321, and all of a sudden everyone's saying, oh, this is wonderful. That doesn't really make that many movies. I've got some neighbors that work in the movie industry, and they've worked just a few days this entire year. So I don't think that's going to be a big benefit to the movie industry. And since many of them have moved out of Los Angeles, out of California, they've been encouraged to go to these other states for a variety of reasons, including the quality of life and the environment and less taxes. So we'll see what happens to that. I also find interesting, Frank, I read this, that Nordstrom, the wonderful Nordstrom department store, they are closing their Santa Monica store. They're closing the Santa Monica store and going out of business as of August 26th. But what I find interesting is the Santa Monica City Council just approved a motion to allow open alcohol consumption along the promenade in an effort to revitalize the area. So you're going to close a department store that does very well as far as quality of merchandise, and you're going to have people walking around with open containers of alcohol. How that's going to solve a problem, I don't know. But the movie tax credits, that's just basically a drop in the bucket. And you have a city that is really, like the state, having huge problems. We know what happened on a national level today, which may be a surprise to some people. But the fact of the matter is, a lot of the standard that we've lived with in the past is going to go away just because of leadership that is changing hands. And I think the city of Los Angeles, when they start seeing fewer and fewer officers, and now people may not know, but when you work overtime as a police officer, there's no more cash. If you work an hour, you're going to get an hour and a half time, which means you'll have more time off. You won't have money to spend, but you'll have more time off. So the 4th of July is going to be wonderful. People hopefully enjoy, be safe. But as far as the economic disaster of the state of California and the city of Los Angeles, we're a far cry from what we should be as far as maintaining a quality of life for the people of the Los Angeles and for the state of California.
Laying out on the line, the Honorable Dennis ZINE is on the line with us here, live on Mottek On Money on 790 KBC. It should be noted that vacation that the city council members are taking this month is indeed a paid vacation. And when you mentioned the Nordstrom closing there in Santa Monica, that is heartbreaking, certainly. And when I first moved here, that the 3rd Street Promenade and that whole area was the place to be. And now with open air drinking and so forth, the whole environment, of course, has changed in recent years there with crime and homeless being a big issue there, and very controversial decision to allow open containers there along that stretch now is certainly adding to the concern. So taxes and regulation, last time I checked, is on the top of the list of business concerns according to the Los Angeles Business Federation, LA BizFed. What is the outlook here, Dennis ZINE? Higher taxes here, given the city's financial situation?
Well, I know there's talk about putting some taxes on the ballot measures coming up as we come up to some voting. They want to build new fire stations, so they're going to need more money. They want to add additional money to the city of Los Angeles, and I wouldn't be surprised if the state of California. So what they come up with is proposals. Let's do this, let's do that, let's increase our taxes. So the answer to government is let's increase taxes. And what we see is, well, the city has this economic situation and maybe 600 people are going to lose their jobs or be reassigned to the airport or the harbor or water and power. But the fact of the matter is, when you have mismanagement, when you have billions of dollars coming in, you mismanage the money, these are the problems that occur. So the taxpayers pay the bills, they pay the property tax, et cetera. And what we see is the city doesn't know how to manage it. And while the controller comes up with these numbers, it doesn't seem to impact the council, the 15 council members that really don't pay attention to it. And I thought it was just ironic that while they're declaring this state of economic disaster, they go on vacation for a month, a paid vacation. They're not taking, I haven't heard any of them taking a pay cut. The mayor said she's going to take a pay cut. I don't know if that's been done or not. But the fact of the matter is the taxpayers are struggling. And you go out, I went to lunch today for clam chowder soup and a diet soda, $19. $19 for a bowl of clam chowder and a diet soda, $19. And that was at a self-service counter. So I did not leave a tip. So when you see the economic situation and people know how much they're paying for goods and services, it's outrageous. So your elected officials are setting this quality of life, or this deteriorating quality of life, for you folks that are here living in the city of the angels. And like I said a long time ago, the angels have fled Los Angeles. Those wings have flown somewhere, but they're not in Los Angeles. The angels have fled Los Angeles, and you can quote me on that.
We quote the quotable here on the line with the Honorable Dennis ZINE, and certainly on the law enforcement and crime front, it should be noted the Trump administration this week filed suit against L.A., saying the city is obstructing the enforcement of immigration laws. The Trump administration taking the gloves off on this issue with a number of cities focused on L.A. this week. What's your reaction here to that lawsuit?
Frank, let me tell you real simple how we can fix this problem with illegals who are committing crimes. That's what they all talked about. Illegals, people who are illegally committing crime, robbery, rape, murder, etc., whatever the case may be. Here's simply what we do. When the LAPD or the sheriffs or whoever arrest these people and they determine that they're not here legally and they put in jail, let immigration come in and take them out of jail and do what they need to do. And quit messing with the people at Home Depot and the people struggling to put food on the table. Yeah, they may be here illegally, but they're not committing crimes. They're trying to find that American dream that seems to be drifting away. If you really want to go after the criminals, then let them have access to the jail after the people are arrested, after they're booked, and then they find out they're not here legally, then let immigration do their job. And don't mess with the other people. If they commit a crime, then deal with it. They don't commit a crime, leave them alone. But I find it ironic they go to Home Depot and they go to these other places where people are trying to work. They're not committing any crime, and then INS comes in, ICE comes in, and they take the people away and book them, and they send them to another state. What to do is let's do something that works for everyone, works for the taxpayer. And if you're here unlawfully in this country and you're committing crimes, those are the ones that we're supposed to target. That's what they should do. And LA should say, okay, you have welcome to the jail. These people committing crimes, they're arrested, And in addition to the robbery charge, the murder charge, the rape, whatever it be, let the immigration aspect take that and forget about going into these places where they're terrorizing the community. It's really outrageous the way it's been handled. And I can't describe how sad it is that they're doing that to people. And you're dealing with human beings that aren't doing anything except trying to find a way to put food on the table and live some quality of life here in the City of the Angels.
Trump administration taking action in a string of lawsuits, including Los Angeles, among the sanctuary jurisdictions, also New York, New Jersey, and in Colorado, which also limit cooperation with federal immigration authorities. And you know this better than I do, but L.A. city policy prevents city resources from being used for immigration enforcement. So we'll continue to follow that one very, very closely. It looks like the federalized National Guard and U.S. Marines are still seen in many of the installations around town here. Any updates on what's happening there?
Well, that's continuing. And I want to mention the National Guard. Those are people who are employed. They're away from their work, doing the National Guard responsibility. As far as the Marines, they're assigned to the United States for military activities. We don't really need to do that. Let's just let law enforcement do their job, arrest people if they commit a crime, and let immigration take over at that point. And you don't need to deploy the National Guard and the Marines. You don't need to do that. I mean, you're just using a lot of resources that don't need to be used. And as far as downtown with the 1 square mile, the curfew that took place, that downtown needed it. And I'm going to say this, in all my years with the LAPD, and I joined in 1968, all my time we never used tear gas to disperse a crowd. Never used tear gas. Now they're resorting to that. Why? Because they don't have enough people to put on the skirmish line to maintain control and custody. Just like they take over the freeway, they don't have enough personnel to restore order. They're now using tear gas. In LA history, from 1969 till now, we've never done that until now. Now that's a tactic because they don't have enough resources. That's how sad it is as far as law enforcement with the LAPD, as far as resources, personnel to do the job.
We salute you, Dennis ZINE, all law enforcement folks and the service people that are here protecting the City of Angels this holiday weekend. Again, thank you very much to you, Dennis ZINE, and for joining us here on the line and for many more conversations ahead on all these important subjects here, live with us here on Mottek On Money on 790 KABC. The Honorable Dennis ZINE, former LA City Council member and former LAPD Sergeant, 56 years plus service to the City of Angels. Thank you again very much, Dennis ZINE.
Thank you, Frank, and a happy 4th of July.
Thank you very much. And now to the freeways we go now on 790 KABC. Mottek On Money continues, 790 KABC. Good afternoon. A lot of people will be hitting the road this holiday weekend in gas-powered cars. And some good news for you folks. Price of gas down to the lowest we've seen in about 4 years for a 4th of July holiday weekend, with the national average at $3.16 a gallon, according to the latest AAA fuel gauge survey. Of course, we're a lot higher here in the Los Angeles area. $4.56 is the average price for regular gas in the Los Angeles area. $4.96, the average price for premium, both about 20 cents a gallon below where they were a year ago. Fallout continues. Dust is still settling, I should say, following the passage of the big, beautiful bill, which impacts the auto industry. $7,500 tax credit that car shoppers can use for new EV purchases, now set to expire at the end of September. Let's bring in our go-to car expert now, Lauren Fix, editor-in-chief of Car Coach and the co-host of the Total Car Score podcast. Lauren Fix, good afternoon to you, and happy 4th of July weekend.
Thank you, Frank, and happy Independence Day to all of your listeners as well.
Well, thank you very much. And what's your initial reaction here with the president set to sign this into law tomorrow on the 4th of July, the impact on the auto industry following the passage of the big, beautiful bill?
Well, I'm actually excited. I'm just going to say it's over. No more mandate on a federal level, no more tax credits. And if you want, why am I excited? It's because I think you should be able to buy whatever you want without being incentivized. You know, you always know there's something off when someone tries to incentivize you to buy something that you don't necessarily want or need. And that was what we were seeing. Now, if you want an electric car, then there's great choices. You can buy a Tesla, you can buy a Hyundai, you can buy a Cadillac, buy whatever you want. Those options are still going to be available. But that tax credit of $7,500, which again is a federal tax credit, it is not a discount. And if you don't owe at least that much in federal taxes, then you get nothing. So, for example, if you owe $2,500 in federal taxes, That's all you're going to get off that $7,500. You don't get a credit. It doesn't roll over into the next year. It just goes away. So a lot of people that are wealthier that have $7,500 or more in federal taxes will buy that, and it offsets that taxes. Now, if you want a used vehicle, that $4,000 tax credit's going away. All that goes away at the end of September. And if you're looking at putting an electric charging station in your home, you probably want to do that before the end of the year because that's when it goes away. So if you own an electric car and you're thinking, I've been thinking about putting in an electric charging station, just haven't got around to it, now's the time to do it. Find a certified electrician to install it. And also don't forget, you must tell your insurance company. To them, it's like putting an addition on a home. So if you don't, and God forbid you have a fire, you will not get full coverage. And that there's a couple lawsuits that I'm aware of, at least in my neck of the woods. I'm sure they're across the country, where a home burned down for whatever reason, whether it was installed improperly or whatever it might be, and they only got 75% of their home paid back. So that's a problem. And a lot of those end up going into court and long-term, fighting with the insurance company. So if you do put one in, it's the same thing as if you put an addition on your home. You must tell your insurance agent.
All right, given the fact that gas prices are the lowest we've seen in 4 years, are people going big again? Are we going to see more gas-powered Hummers and excursions on the road?
Well, you're already seeing gas-powered vehicles. All the car brands have already made a massive shift. Mercedes-Benz said, this isn't working the way we thought. We're going to go back to building hybrids and gasoline-powered cars. We've seen the same with a lot of brands. Not every brand has made the shift yet. They will. Obviously, you can tell by who's paying attention. Hyundai, Kia, Genesis, all have said, we're going to make a mix. Whatever you want. You want electric cars? We'll build them. You want hybrids? We'll build those. You want plug-in hybrids, gasoline? They're building those. And around the world, they're still offering all of that. So here, we no longer have the mandate. Other countries do. The problem is the infrastructure. And even today, it's nice and warm here on the East Coast, and we had a brownout. And if you have your car plugged in, that could damage your car. It could cause other problems, and you don't get a charge. So, again, these are things that the grid can't support it here in the U.S. We are way outdated, and I'd rather see them take that billions of dollars they had for infrastructure and put it into the electric grid, which truly needs it, especially there in California.
Remember a couple of years ago, the story was that GM only sold 2 Hummers, electric Hummers. Remember when that story came out? Are those things selling now?
I think people that want them have them. I see a few of them on the road. They are very cool. I mean, if you want an electric car that makes a statement, that makes a statement. And I think there's going to be some good deals on those because they're going to need to get rid of the product that they've produced. GM's still saying they're going to build electric or gas and nothing in between. But rumor has it from an internal told me that they might be doing hybrids and they're already testing them, which is a good thing. They need to have a mix to offer consumers. And all those electric cars that are sitting on lots across the country, there's going to be some good deals. Remember, the deals will get less and less available as we get closer to the end of September when that tax credit goes away. So if you're thinking, electric car could work for me as a second car, or maybe it works for you as a primary car, this would be the time to start looking because as the inventory starts to dwindle, there'll be less options available for you to choose from.
Anything else on fuel economy regulation or anything else that jumps out at you on all this? Anything else the consumer should be aware of?
Yeah, there's a lot going on right now. There's a lot going on, especially with Lee Zeldin and Sean Duffy. Lee Zeldin is EPA. Sean Duffy is the Department of Transportation. They're starting to look into all these rules and regulations, and they're saying that it's possible that this mile per gallon sort of mandate that was put in place might be illegal. And they've already put out the word on it, and they're already looking into it. And if that's the case, this would allow you to have more gasoline-powered options. It would put less of a burden on manufacturers. So if you're looking for a $20,000 new car, which is completely unavailable now, could return to have vehicles that are less options but more efficient and more value-based for your customers, I think that would make sense for any brand. And that's been a problem all along, as we've seen a lot of situations where there's no low-priced cars. And that also means that you still get used cars, which are also very, very expensive right now. If you've only got $20,000, you have a very limited selection.
Lauren, thank you very much. You're terrific. We wish you a wonderful 4th of July holiday weekend and enjoy those gas prices, the lowest we've seen in 4 years this holiday weekend. Lauren Fix, editor-in-chief of Car Coach and co-host of the Total Car Score podcast. Live with us here on Mottek On Money on 790 KBC. Stay tuned now for the 790 KBC News Blitz. Then at 6, I'll be back on the air for the Just Help One radio show and podcast presented by the Union Rescue Mission. I'll be back at 6 and every Thursday evening with Mark Hood, the CEO of the Union Rescue Mission. So stay tuned, 790 KBC.
Hello, my loves. It's Lala Kent. Yes, that Lala. And if you're not listening to the Give Them Lala podcast, here's what you're missing out on.
I stayed with my 2 kids. Mom and Kristen shared a room, and you and Landon shared a room. What the hell is going on? A lesbian couple, a gay couple, and then this
random woman with 2 kids.
So weird, but to me, it's the most common thing. This is my brother, his best friend, and my mom and her best friend. This is just how we roll. This is called the pod, okay?
Give Them Lala. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.